evening. Thank you for being here. And please stay on. We shall begin shortly the panel discussion. It will not last more than half an hour. And actually, you will have the panelists here, Archbishop Sánchez Sorondo, the Bishop of the Church of England, and also the Deputy Diplomat Observer of the Holy See, and also Kevin Hyman, who is here, and I don't see Frederick Simon. Oh, there. Okay, welcome. And definitely we shall all sit here facing you, and there will be no question and answer period, because shortly after, immediately after the panel, we shall go to the parish hall, and then you can actually ask all questions you want to the panelists.
Okay. Thank you for coming. So, as you know, we are here to speak about the great problem, tragedy of the human trafficking, the new form of slaves, as we say. This is, of course, represent the more terrible, the more tragic violation of the human rights that's facing in our world today. And after 10 years, we celebrate also the great declaration made by the Pope with all the religious leaders of the more important religion, was also a representative of the Anglican religion, and also the Lutherans, and also the Muslims. I have all the names, very complicated, but I can show you. And the declaration, I prepared the declaration that say that in the name of all the religious leaders, this is a crime against humanity in the form of forced labor, prostitution, traffic of organs, and the other more important forms. And when I showed this to the Pope, Francis said immediately this was the first year of the Pope. Say in the name of God, we declare that this is a crime against humanity. And we try to convert this in law, in an international law. There are some, the Club of Roma to say, and there are institutions to say this, but not this so clear for all countries. This is a real crime against humanity, and it's just the most contrary thing to the human right, most contrary thing to human dignity. And also, when you see, and we are in contact with the victims, we know what kind of tragedy this is. And of course, the great problem is that the traffickers have a lot of money and a lot of power, more and more, because we can say after 10 years that the Pope has to go against this. We have more awareness of the problem, but at the same time we have more victims, because the war, because many of the tragedies, because the marginalization of many people, because of the poverty, and because a decadence in the custom of the people. We don't have more ethic values, we don't have more the idea that we need to live with virtue. That was a classic idea that, of course, the gospel is completely designed. We don't have more the commandments of God. We don't have more this as in the time of Moses have the same problem. And God revealed this commandment to have order in the society, and we don't have more this. And these new form of slaves are against the commandment. So, and look, the current situation, the current estimation is that we have today 27.6 millions of individuals that are trafficking globally today. And annually, and the global money to generate this is around 150 billions of illicit profit. So you can see the power to have this power. So we need to have a great force, especially this time, especially with these new ideas to come in the world, to go against this with international cooperation and with a cooperation of all institutions. And I think there are two lines, my lines, after my experience to organize many meetings in the academy, 10 years of meeting, we can say one line is prevention. That is the more important, maybe, because if we prevent, we don't have the problem. Prevention. And prevention signifies that we need to be aware of the problem and that we need to speak about the problem in the schools, in the universities, in the families, because all child could be victim of this. All child, not only the poor child, but all child in the world, as can say the priest that we have here, and also the bishop. So, and the second thing is, of course, the problem of saving the victims. And for this, we need a cooperation, and cooperation of the states, and also private cooperation. And we have different forms, charters, but we need to have good charters that are able to make understand to the victims the dignity of the human person, and to make understand also that this could be in a religious context. So I think these two things, prevention and salvation of the victims, are our task. So, and of course, for all of this, we need to have money. I say, hey, and all institutions need to collaborate with this, because we need, I say the ambassador today to one of the African countries, we need to put as a priority thing to go against to this more important tragedy of our days. But I want to give all the other people to speak. I only want to say
Thank you very much, Bishop Sánchez, and thank you to the Sovereign Order of Malta for organising this very important event. As I said, I was privileged to be with Bishop Sánchez 10 years ago this day at the Vatican when the leaders signed this declaration. It was an amazing moment of faith coming into the public space to offer leadership and practical support. I'm going to just, in my notes, I've only got 4 minutes, so I'm going to be very quick, and I'm just going to give you a number of headlines about what in the Church of England and the Anglican communion across the world we're trying to do, some of it in partnership with the World Council of Churches. The churches are uniquely placed to tackle this because we have a presence in communities. And this is crime happens in real places, in real time, both vulnerable people dragged into forced labour, sexual exploitation, whatever it is, child exploitation. And we can notice, you have to open your eyes where you are. We run lots of training courses across churches to help local people open their eyes, notice the signs, and reach out and make a difference. So churches are placed in every community to have open eyes and to reach out and make a difference. The second thing churches can do is we can speak to ourselves too. Pope Francis says that modern slavery is the result of the globalisation of indifference. We're so busy looking at our phones and running our lives, we don't notice what's happening to our brothers and sisters. We like all those people in the story of the Good Samaritan rushing to do our stuff, even say our prayers. We don't notice our brothers and sisters being brutalised and hurt. And one way we can make a difference is as consumers. Modern slavery exists because everybody wants cheap goods and services. We don't care about where they come from, who makes them, we just want a cheap price. I make an appeal for each of you here tonight. When you next buy something that's almost too good to be true if it's cheap, go home and celebrate. Take 3 minutes, send an email to the company saying, can you assure me there's no modern slavery in your supply chain? Companies are frightened to death of consumer power. Christians have all that power, we're not exercising. Let's push back to get the bad business. Third thing we've got to do, we've got to speak up about our teaching about sexuality. There's enormous sexual exploitation of children increasing and of women and men. We know that sexuality is a gift to be shared and developed in what we call committed relationships. This tremendous sexual exploitation is doing enormous damage to the consumers as well as the people being enslaved. We've got to start preaching and talking about the preciousness of sexuality. We've got to talk about the preciousness of children. Children are being exploited in horrible ways. Forced labour, sexual exploitation, online. We've got to start saying children are precious. Let's care for them. Let's value them. I think we've got to reclaim the word sin. We know that we're sinners. We live in a world where anybody does what they want on whatever terms they want because they think that's freedom. We have to preach that we're sinners and we do wrong and other people do wrong and we need to say it's wrong and challenge people to repent and find new ways. We've got to, as Christians, and we're doing this a lot in the church, talk about sin and repentance and change. And then lastly, we've got to somehow give the victims, as we meet them, and offer care and love and support, give them a voice. Let the world hear, this is what's happening to people. This is what people want to say who've been damaged and hurt by the forces of human trafficking and modern slavery. Churches were doing all those kind of things throughout the UK, across the world in the Anglican Communion, through all our networks. I hope that some of those things might be of interest to some of you here. And if you want to ask any more, come and talk to me over the drinks and things in the other room. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
Excellencies, distinguished guests and friends, good evening. My task tonight is to read a text of the Joint Declaration of Religious Leaders Against Human Trafficking, signed at the Vatican 10 years ago, December 2nd, 2014. And the text reads, "We, the undersigned, are gathered here today for a historical initiative to inspire spiritual and practical action by all global faiths and people of goodwill everywhere to eradicate modern slavery across the world by 2020 and for all time. In the eyes of God, each human being is a free person, whether girl, boy, woman, or man, and is destined to exist for the good of all, in equality and fraternity. Modern slavery, in terms of human trafficking, forced labor and prostitution, organ trafficking, and any relationship that fails to respect the fundamental conviction that all people are equal and have the same freedom and dignity, is a crime against humanity. We pledge ourselves here today and to do all in our power, within our faith communities and beyond, to work together for the freedom of all those who are enslaved and trafficked, so that their future may be restored. Today we have the opportunity, awareness, wisdom, innovation, and technology to achieve this human and moral imperative."
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kevin Highland. I'm a former police officer and the UK Anti-Slavery Commissioner and the Councillor representative for Ireland for human trafficking. The issue of human trafficking, which affects updated number is 50 million people on our planet. It generates 236 billion US dollars every year in profits. And we, the current incumbents of this world, are ashamed to allow this to happen. And we have to start by accepting the shame, but then building responses. And today we're talking about a signature that was in the Vatican 10 years ago, where the Pope and other faith leaders acknowledged the presence of this, but committed to eradicate it. But we've seen the situation get worse. The criminals make more money, and big business, countries, individuals continue to allow this to happen. And we, particularly people of faith, particularly my faith and other faiths in this room, we believe every person was born in the image of Christ. But even some of us can drop that when that person comes from a different part of the planet, different community, has a different accent or different skin colour. And until we people of faith ignore those factors and see everybody as equal, how can we blame others who are in positions of power, who do this as part of their business of government, their business of business, or ways to make money? Human trafficking is not inevitable. It's a deliberate act by criminals. Criminals who take vulnerable people and use them for sexual exploitation, forced labour, domestic servitude, criminal soldiers, children who are forced to commit crimes. And across the world, the solutions and the responses for them are very weak. So one of the things I called on for the G20, which I attended only recently in Rio, was a commitment by G20 countries to step up the fight. Across the world, in the fight against drugs, there are hundreds of billions invested. In fact, 100 billion alone by the United States. Last year, the fight against trafficking, which creates 236 billion of human suffering, had hardly $1 billion US dollars invested in it across the world. So it's an unfair fight. So if we're going to be serious about this, we need to make our governments take this seriously. We need to make our faith take this seriously. We need to take leaders who are businesses to take this seriously. And where there are failings, we need to hold people to account. Of course, the best way to do it is people join the campaign for good. But if people continue to be on the campaign for evil, then they should face justice. I'm committed to work for the 50 million people around the world. And one of the most touching incidents I met was a woman in Nigeria who explained to me that her community was being destroyed because now they don't suffer with leprosy because the medical solutions in the West have made their people healthy. But now they are taking their people and using them for exploitation to make money. And she had a simple request to me: can you get your world to stop this? And of course, that means the African community, the African world needs to do it as well. So the G20 must invest in this. We as people of faith must call on them and the United Nations. And we need to speak for that woman that I met in Nigeria and not for our own greed or for our own process or own ideas, but maybe about how well we're doing as opposed to how healthy our world really is. Thank you.
I call on Miss Frederick Seidel for the program of Subtitles for Child Rights, World Council of Church, high the work of the World Council of Church. We visit today St. Peter Cathedral here. Oh, incredible cathedral. We have meetings in the cathedral. So, please.
Thank you very much. I am extremely happy to be here with you to celebrate the 10th anniversary of that important declaration. Because I've met many children whom I spoke about this declaration too. Children who are victims of trafficking, children who are victims of modern slavery, and who are getting a lot of hope from this declaration. At the World Council of Churches, we are representing about 360 churches in 120 countries who every day witness the consequences of human trafficking. Very often, the victims of modern slavery are sitting in the pews. Our communities, our church communities, can help a lot. And I was so glad that with Bishop Alastair, through the Church of England's CLUA initiative, we were able, over the last year, to develop a new resource which equips churches across the world with a know-how on how to do even better in helping those children. One of them was Maria. I met her in Barrio Boro. That's an area in Uruguay where actually nobody wanted to drive me there. They said it's too dangerous. Even a taxi, they were saying, there's so much violence there. But I had to go there to do a story on how churches help victims of modern slavery. In the end, I found someone who was accepting to drive me, it's incognito, in a very dirty old car. And when I reached that place, I really saw how much for the victims the churches mean. Because in this place, there were volunteers who had created vocational trainings for the girls who had been trafficked from Dominican Republic, who had been told they would find a much better life, they would get the money to help feed their children, and in the end they were trafficked into prostitution, their passports were taken away, and they were rescued by the Lutheran Church of Rio de la Plata. Not only in these shelters do we see the role of churches, but as Bishop Alastair and many others said, in the prevention. Yes, we can create safe networks. We can be attentive. We can spot the signs of human trafficking. And as consumers, we can make a huge difference. Look at that chocolate which you may buy for Christmas. Verify if it has a label that certifies that it is slavery-free. Through all these consumer choices, we can help the children in Ghana who are working so many hours in the cocoa plantations instead of going to school. But finally, I also want to mention how at the World Council of Churches, we are now looking into another dimension of slavery. We've heard some of the staggering figures. Every year they increase. I wanted to look up the number of victims of slavery of today, but I knew actually they're going up every year. So we need to tackle the root causes. And with global warming and the resulting increase of poverty, of children losing their homes, becoming unaccompanied minors, the risk to become victims of these criminal networks is getting higher and higher. This is why at the World Council of Churches we raise awareness on our slavery, our dependency on fossil fuels. We look at the science, which tells us we need to get down to 2 tons of CO2 per citizen per year. And we look at how much the advertisements create demand for non-essential fossil fuel products. And so in the work we do to ensure responsible banking, moving away investments from fossil fuel into renewable energy, we know it's quite a stretch, but de facto it has a lot to do with tackling that explosive number of victims of modern slavery. We must tackle the root causes of global warming to effectively address slavery and equip the churches in their important role to help the victims and ensure prevention. I have a few copies also of that resource which I can share with you later over the bricks. Thank you for your attention.
I invite my friends, Father Jeff of Sanchez, to speak about the project of Metanoia, that the first brick was blessed by Pope Francis. Remember, please.
Good evening, I'm Father Jeff Veuthey from Louisiana in the States. I'm a retired priest after 46 years. And I'm the founder of Metanoia Manor, which is a juvenile shelter for female victims in the United States. We're the only accredited juvenile shelter in the United States. We have 11 beds. And according to the United Nations, 3 million children under the age of 18 are bought and sold in the United States every day. 3 million children. And we have 11 beds. The reason we have 11 is because Father Chuck will tell you about our wonderful nuns who work with us. But I assume several different roles. I think the first role is to educate, to advocate, and if necessary, agitate. Because there are a lot of people who don't want to deal with the fact that it's here, it's our children, and it's happening in our communities. And people don't want to know that. And people don't want to hear it. Because if they know it, they'll have to do something about it. And that challenge is really, really great. That people, whenever we go to speak, the first question, but we don't have that here, do we? The second question is, they're not our children, are they? That's so offensive to me. No child deserves to be bought and sold into slavery. And then my second role is as a Catholic priest and a member of the household of faith. Regardless of your communion, your denomination, or whatever your creed is, everyone believes that we're created by God and we're created for God. No one is created to be a slave. The challenge of the modern society is the fact that we have reduced the dignity of a human person and see them as a matter of profit, pleasure, or possession. We think about the $152 billion a year pornography industry on the internet. They're using other people for their pleasure because they can buy it. We do the same thing when we become consumers of victims. And then until we as a household of faith are going to address the issue of the devaluation of the human person, we're not getting ahead. We've had a war on drugs in the United States for the last 50 years, and we're losing. We're still losing. Why? Because people ask, how do you stop the drugs? Nobody has asked, why is your reality so unhappy that you need a substance in order to find happiness or purpose in life? We've never asked that question. We just keep figuring out new ways to chase the drug traffickers. We have never really asked the question, how come we as a society have devalued human life, whether it's the unborn, whether it's the elderly, whether it's the marginalized, whether it's the migrants and refuge? No one deserves to live like that. We're not God. We don't make decisions. who lives, who dies. We don't make decisions who's enslaved and who's free. But we do it every day. And as a member of the household of faith, I know full well that there are people sitting in the pews as I'm on the pulpit, and they participate in the devaluation of the human person. And that's where we start. If we keep chasing the traffickers, they're one step ahead of us every time. And technology has got them one step ahead of everybody. You know, our role is to be caregivers. And that's our purpose in it. The nun who taught me about this was very clear. She said, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And doing something is what too many people are not willing to step up and do. And that's our invitation. And now I'm going to ask my colleague, Father Chuck Swanson, to tell you a little bit about our program and our girls and our nuns.
Thank you very much.
Metanoia is the name of the shelter. Metanoia is from St. Paul's letter, means to change one's life in a new direction. And so that's how we gain metanoia. The trauma that happens to these children is very, very deep. And it goes from joy to deep depression, like that. The children that we have there are 11 years of age. They can stay till they're 21, but they become adults in the United States at 18. And of course, when they're 18, they know everything. So they must stay till they're 18. But they can stay with us until they're 21, from 0. We're the only shelter in the United States that would take a child, a little girl that's been trafficked, that has a child. We're licensed for that. We're the only shelter in the United States that would take a traffic victim who's pregnant. So from 0, and we've had children with that. So we're telling you this from our experience. The trauma that happens to these children, it's maybe if I just give you a couple of instances of this. Birthday party. Everybody's having a good time. The sisters there, we have 5 religious sisters that live and work with the girls. They are with them 24 hours a day, and that's different from other shelters. Other shelters will have like three shifts. You never know who's going to be there. Not only that, the average time of a worker in a shelter is usually less than 6 months. So the change is over and over and over again. And the girls need to have trust. That's one of the traumas that they experiences. They lose trust in everyone. Now at the birthday party, I was there, and the sisters throw this birthday party for when the girls have a birthday and they have a good time, and everybody's having a good time. When I look over in the corner, and one of the girls is rolled up in a ball. You know, and I go over, and try to help her, and she just, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. And so I do. That's one of the things you back away from. You don't try to push. They've been sold and pushed enough, you don't do that. But a little while later, I said, sweetheart, what was going on? How come? She said, I've never had a birthday party. So it can go from trauma like that to another time when a girl actually picked up a chair and threw it through the window. Again, all of a sudden, it happens. And I talked to her the next day, and I said, sweetheart, wait a minute. What happened? She said, Father, I tried to stop myself. But I was getting so angry that I had to release it somehow. That's how I did it. I didn't mean anything by it, but that's what happened. Trauma is so very hard. The sisters are there 24 hours a day. They help them with all kinds of things. The average age, we test them for education. Average age of the kids there in education is 4th grade. So we have to catch them up in school. They're 11, 12, 15, 16 years of age. So we catch them up in school. We have them, counseling is so very, very important. Individual counseling, sex counseling, group counseling. We have a staff that there's an on-site counselor there. We even have what they call equine counseling. I don't know if you have that here. It's horse counseling. I thought, what are they going to be doing with horses? It's wonderful. It really works. It really works. It teaches them so many things that they need to know. So the sisters are there to help them. They teach them how to cook. They teach them how to clean their rooms. Teach them how to dress. Teach them feminine health. And they're there 24 hours a day. They live right with us, right on the same floor as the girls' door. So someone's crying in the middle of the night, they hear that and they can go over there and just sit with them and even cry with them. So metanoia is a place that begins the healing for all of them. And we hope that there really can be for them a change in life. Because someone loves them, cares for them, and really trusts them.
So I want to introduce you, the Reverend John Veuthey. Please come. Representative of the Anglican Communion to the United Nations in Geneva, discuss the work of faith-based NGO against Malawi.
I'm pleased to say that I won't be saying anything that hasn't already been said by the excellent speakers. NGO, non-governmental organisation. Well, organisation implies an organised group of people who can then mobilise. And churches, of course, are a group of people in every community, and they can mobilise together. And so it's very important that groups of Christians and other faiths, that we unite and we work together. I can see representatives from the World Evangelical Alliance, Franciscans International. We have these great groups. It's so important that we cooperate to challenge these systems of injustice. And also there's that importance of gathering evidence. If we see things that are happening, we need to document them. We need to then have the courage to take that to media organisations to try and expose evil practices, because companies do not want bad publicity. As NGOs, we can train people. We can bring people together. In the Church of England, clergy are having safeguarding training to try and look out for human trafficking situations, modern-day slavery. And then we should pass it on to our congregations. Congregations should then train other congregations and other groups in the community. So everyone is taking responsibility and it's being passed on to future generations. As NGOs, we can advocate, we can educate. There's that great need to push for democracy. Democracies are responsive to people's votes. And there's much more slavery going on in countries that are not democratic. So we can help with pushing for democracy around the world. Women's rights. 35 million of the 50 million people in slavery are women. It's so important to push for the improvement of women's rights around the world and make sure that women have an equal voice in society. There's already existing law in place. The International Labour Organization's Domestic Workers Convention. It hasn't been put into law in a number of very respectable states. We should be questioning those states and saying, why haven't you ratified this? And we can also, as going back to the advocacy point, advocate in shops, asking those awkward questions. Why is this product so cheap? And challenging those who are powerful. And also getting back to those root causes. Climate change, forcing people to leave their communities where they are known. Conflict, driving people out. Why are we investing so much in military hardware and so little in making peace? And general poverty. If there's more equality in the world, people would not feel so desperate and end up in situations of slavery. So in answer to the question, what can we do? There's a huge amount we can do.
Thank you. We invite then the great organizer of this meeting, and that first of all we thank very much for all the things that we do, and also for this meeting and the organization. Please come from the conclusive word as the very representative, ambassador to the Sovereign Order of Malta, and monitor all this combat to the trafficking, the order.
No, just a word of thanks. First to Father Paul and to the parish who are welcoming us tonight. Also to all the speakers, beginning of course with Archbishop Sánchez Sorondo, but also the Bishop from the Church of England who traveled to Geneva, and also our two American priests who actually were also on their way to Brussels, and clearly also Frederick Schneider. I'm very grateful that and actually the co-organizer is Glenn. You know, Reverend Glenn Hoff, we organize that together. And I'm very happy that we are here. And of course, the number 2 of the Holy See Mission also was very supportive because the nuncio was until recently in Cambodia for a conference. So what I want to also express my thanks to all of you here and to invite you for a small reception next door in the parish hall. And this reception is co-organized with Sandra Goulet and Jean-Noël Goulet, her husband. They are actually responsible for the Saint Clotilde parish in Geneva, and they offered us to help with the reception. Also, I'm very grateful. So, thank you and thank you.